Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another one of my Future Fight Vanguard series. Today is Friday the 13th, but also the release of Set 12. Went to the card shop last night at around midnight and got all my new Set 12 stuff. So there should be some videos on that you guys can look forward to. But anyways, let's get right into the future fight today. That is Lauris from Clan Booster 5 Prismatic Divas. So we're gonna load up Lauris here and get right into the deck because I don't think I have anything further to say beyond that. But yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, so in the main deck, we run 7 grade 3s, 4 Miracle Voice Lauris. So the old Lauris is still going to be our bread and butter main grade 3. I feel like she's the best main grade 3 still. Even though her on-stride skill requires you to have a unit on the board and the other one's better if you're fighting control. Like, ultimately, I just think that this Lauris is way better. Like, even the Generation Break 2 Harmony ability is just way better because you can give 2 units 5k. On defensive turn instead of like just one. But yeah, it's pretty solid card. I think it's better than the new Lauris. The new Lauris, however, is better rear guard than it, obviously, since this doesn't have a rear guard skill. But going through the skills, so it has 3 abilities. The first ability is Harmony, meaning that when another one of your units is placed in the same column as something with a Harmony ability, then both units become in Harmony state until the end of the turn. And the Harmony state is usually necessary for its any card's abilities or stuff like that. It'll say like when this card goes into the Harmony state, it does this. So that leads into its Generation Break 2 ability that says when this unit becomes Harmony state, choose 2 of your units and they get plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn, and this unit gets plus 1 critical. So you're really just using this whenever you can't stride, which is unlikely. But it mostly becomes useful on defensive turns when you're playing cards in the same column as it, like during your opponent's turn, which would be like when you're guarding with High Society Citron and stuff like that. So most of the time you just want to leave the circle behind your Vanguard open during your turn so that the next turn, if you G-guard or something like that and you call a card to the field, then you can activate Harmony and be 5k, plus 5k continuously till the end of the turn. Then we run one of my favorite cards in the deck. I used to have this deck in real life, and this is the backup grade 3 I used when Lauris first came out, which was Little Princess Himari. She's a pretty cool card. I like her a lot. She has the Harmony ability for one of her skills. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to Lauris really quick because I forgot the on-stride skill. So the on-stride skill for Lauris is simply counterboss 1 whenever you stride. Choose one of your rear guards and return it to your hand. And then if you return a unit this way, then you draw a card. So pretty good card. But you have to have a rear guard on the field before stride phase to do it. So then we have Little Princess Himari. Back to her. She has her first ability being Harmony ability. The second ability is when this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, so it's an on-hit ability. If this unit's in Harmony, you can counterboss 1, and if you do, you choose one of your other rear guards, return it to your hand, then you choose one card from your hand, call it to rear guard circle, and that unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So if you know that your opponent can't guard it, like something that I would just used to do, is I would just hit with Himari, then I would counterboss 1, return this other card, play Himari, Harmony, hit with Himari, use Himari's skill, like until you're out of counterblast basically, or until your opponent decides to guard it. So it's a very high pressure card that your opponent feels like they have to guard, but if they don't guard it, then it's good for you either way. So then we run one Wonderful Voice Lauris. This is the new Lauris grade 3, and it has 3 abilities as well, just like old Lauris. So its first ability is Harmony. The second ability is if this unit is in Harmony, this unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. And then if this unit is on Vanguard Circle, this unit gets plus 1 critical. So what this means is that since this is a Vanguard or Rearguard skill, it gets plus 5,000 when it's in a Harmony, whether it's on the Vanguard or Rearguard circle, which makes it a really good Rearguard because it's 16k. Then its stride skill is when a unit strides on top of it, if it is your Vanguard, then you can counterboss 1, soul boss 1, and draw a card, and then choose up to 2 of your rear guards and return it to your hand. So since this card draws and then returns rear guards, you don't have to have rear guards on the board beforehand in order to do its skill, which makes it good against control or like decks that wipe your board every single turn. Then we have 4 Spica. So what Spica does is she is our basically you need a booster version of Himari, but she doesn't have to hit. She's just when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if this unit is boosted, you can counterboss 1 and then choose one of your other rear guards, return it to your hand. Then you choose a card from your hand, call it to rear guard circle, and that unit gets plus 3,000 power. So pretty good card for multi attacks. Then we have 3 of a new card, Eager Envy Maloney, or Melanie, however you would like to say it, probably Melanie. But what Melanie does is she has 3 abilities as well. First ability being Harmony. The second ability is when this unit becomes Harmony state. If you have a Vanguard with Lauris in its name, this unit gets 3,000 power just for going Harmony state. Then the Generation Break 2 is this unit gets plus 3k for every 2 of your units in Harmony. So if all 6 of your units on the board are in Harmony, then it gets plus 12k overall. So it literally ends up being 21 by itself, which is very, very good. Just a very solid card. Most of the time it's like just 18. But if you can make your whole board Harmony, then just 21 by itself. So really good. Better than the Hallam and Overlord actually. Then we have 3 Strolling Weather Amelia. Amelia is just our resist unit that we play against control. And then also when it's bounced to our hand, we get to counterblast 1 and then return it to when this card is returned to our hand, we counterblast 1 and draw a card. So pretty good grade 2. Finishing up our grade 2 lineup, we run some of the new Shizukus. We run 2 of the Dreaming Step Shizuku. So what Dreaming Step Shizuku does is it has 2 abilities. The first one's Harmony. The second one is when this unit attacks a Vanguard. If it's on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, you may discard a grade 3 from your hand. And then if you do, this unit gets plus 5,000 power. And until the end of the battle, if this unit's in Harmony, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, search for 1 grade 3, reveal it to your opponent, and then put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this basically like thins your deck out. It's better in the pure Shizuku deck, but it can help in the Lauris deck if you have useless grade 3s in your hand and you just want to drop them to give Shizuku column plus 5,000 power. And then you might even get a grade 3 off of the top 5, thinning your deck and putting a card from your deck into your hand that you would not want to check, and also giving you plus 5k for free, or for a 1-for-1. So pretty good card in some situations. Then we run 4 Stride Fighters. We want to Stride. This is a Stride deck, pretty self-explanatory. Then we run 4 Unflip PGs. We value our Counterblast in this deck, so that's self-explanatory as well. Then we run 3 Extraordinary Freshman Shizuku. So what this Shizuku does is it is our grade 1 Shizuku. It has 2 abilities. First one is Harmony, and then the second one is Generation Break 1. When this unit becomes Harmony state, you get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck for a grade 3, and then show it to your opponent if you get it, and then shuffle your deck. Or show it to your opponent, add it to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So basically, like with all the bouncing abilities of Bermuda, you can like bounce this card multiple times and play it multiple times, so that you're making sure you get all of your grade 3s out of your deck via doing this skill and the grade 2 Shizuku like a lot of times. And this grade 1 also fuels this grade 2 Shizuku, so it's pretty good. Like they make, like in a column together, they make 21. So if you use the Shizuku's ability right here, so it's pretty good. They search out the grade 3s out of your deck. If they're normal Laurises, you can just get rid of them if you're already on normal Lauris Vanguard. Then Himari and the other Lauris, I would just suggest you keep as rear guards. Moving on, we have 2 Magical Yell Nina. So what Magical Yell Nina does is you Soul Blast 2 when it's played, and you can Countercharge 2. Really important for our Counterblast management because you go through a lot of Counterblast in this deck. Then we run 1 Chocolatier Roan. Chocolatier Roan basically says when this unit's bounced from your hand to the rearguard circle, you can Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Alright, yeah, sorry guys. I always forget that my mic just randomly turns off sometimes. So, yeah, Chocolate to your own. When this unit is placed from your hand to the rearguard circle, or yeah, from return to your hand from the rearguard circle, then you get to draw a card. So it's basically just our version of Amelia that is with a Soul Blast added onto it. So it's an okay card. When you pull it off, you can draw a card. When not, it doesn't really matter. Then we run, for our starter, we run First Lesson Akari. So what First Lesson Akari does is it has 3 abilities. The first one is Forerunner, meaning that when you ride a grade 1 on top of it, or a grade 0, I don't know why you would do that, but if you ride a grade 1 on top of it, then you get to move it back to any rearguard circle from your soul. Then it has Harmony, and we already went over that. And then the third ability is if this unit's in a Harmony state, then this unit gets an activation ability that says put this unit into your soul and choose one of your other rearguards, return it to your hand, and draw a card. So my favorite combo to do with this is you stride, like assuming that when you first ride a grade 1, you place Akari behind your Vanguard circle. When you stride, it's considered Harmony for your stride and Akari, because another unit gets placed in the same column as Akari, so it makes both of them Harmony. So your stride becomes Harmony, and then Akari becomes Harmony, and then you can use Lauris's stride skill to usually counterblast 1 and return this Amelia to your hand, and then you draw 2 cards. Yeah, you return it, draw, and then from Amelia you counterblast 1, draw, and then you can play Amelia back to the field and play a Akari skill to shove it into the soul and target Amelia, bounce it to your hand, draw a card, and then draw another card. So it's really good advantage for your first turn stride. Like, draws you a good amount of cards. Then we have 12 criticals because we really want to kill our opponent in this deck. 4 Reynas, so Reyna is our Lauris crit that shoves itself into the soul and gives 5k. Very important in some stances of this deck because sometimes you need soul, so very important to keep in mind that we run this. And then we run just 4 different versions of vanilla crits to throw off our opponent. But yeah, essentially we run 12 crit and 4 heal, our heal being Sandy from the Fighter's Collection. She lets us discard 1 and draw 1 when we go into the new G-Guardian Sandy right here. So moving into our G-Zone, we have 4 School Étoile Olivia. So what Olivia does is when this unit attacks the Vanguard, if the number of face-up cards in your G-Zone is 1 or more, if this unit attacks the Vanguard, if the face-up cards in your G-Zone is 1 or more, then you counterblast 1 and flip an Olivia in your G-Zone face-up. And then if you do, you get to choose up to 5 of your rearguards. And then if all the chosen units have different names, return them to your hand. So you basically want to choose all cards with different names. And then if the cards that you return to your hand is 3 or more, then you get to choose up to 2 cards from your hand, call them to front row and back row. So call 1 to front row, 1 to back row, and then this unit gets +1 critical. So pretty good pressuring unit. It's like a multi-attack unit. Pretty good card in general. Then we have 2 Celebrate Voice Lauris. This card is pretty much just used to abuse Shizuku and abuse Harmony in general. It's a really good card, and it just, abuses Harmony in general. The first ability is that it has Harmony, and the second ability is a Generation Break 2 skill that says counterblast 1 and choose any card from your G-Zone and turn it face up, meaning that you can turn any card from your G-Zone face up, and you can turn Sabreeze, you can turn anything you want face up, and it'll work out for your strategy all the same. So you get to choose any number of your rearguards as the face-up cards in your G-Zone, return them to your hand, and then until the end of the turn, this unit gets an ability that says when this unit attacks Vanguard, if all of the units are Harmony on your board, then you get to choose 3 of your units and give them +5,000, and then your Vanguard gets a critical. So pretty solid card. It's not like amazing, but it's not terrible either. It's a good option to go into against your opponent if they are struggling to survive, or if you just need to put a little more pressure out to kind of end the game. Then we have one Perfect Performance Angie. What Perfect Performance Angie does is it has a Generation Break 2 ability that says counterboss 2, choose a card from your G zone, turn it face up. And then you choose any number of cards on Fighter Circle other than Vanguard circles, and you return them to hand, and then this unit gets plus 5,000 for every card returned. And then if you return 5 or more, you draw a card, and if you return 7 or more, this unit gets plus 1 drive. So we basically only run this against Link Choker because Link Choker is like a bad matchup if you don't run this card. But we run this card against Link Choker just because it can return lock cards. But ideally you want to return 7 or more so that you can get the full use out of this card. Or it's not really great in my opinion. So you just want to make sure that there's at least 7 units on the field, including yours. So even if, since it's a main phase ability, like even if you need to play units from your hand that you don't really want to play, like you're going to bounce them immediately anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Moving on to our GB8 of the deck, we have Festal Finale, Final Priscilla. So what Final Priscilla does is at the end of the battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard. You can discard a card and then return all your regards to your hand and choose up to 5 from your hand, call them, and they get plus 5k. It's kind of one of the more like meh GB8s out there, to be honest. But it does help you finish your opponent in certain scenarios in this deck because you have very strong rearguards that can also like bounce and on hit, like Himari, Spica, Maloney, like Shizuku. Like you have some pretty good rearguards in this deck to make use of the GB8, so it's not so bad in this deck as it is in the other Bermuda decks, in my opinion. For our first stride, like this is usually our first stride in this deck, we have Flying Mermaid Federica. So what Federica does is it has 2 abilities, first one being Harmony, second one being when this card hits a Vanguard, we can turn a unit from our G-Zone face up. And a lot of you might be asking why we don't run the other one that isn't on hit, but I like this one better just because of like the power boost that it gives. It gives us more reward if we do hit, and it gives our opponent more to kind of, it pressures them more to guard it. So when this unit attacks a Vanguard, or when it hits, you can turn a unit face up from your G-Zone, usually Sabreeze, and then you can choose up to 1 of your rearguards in Harmony, return it to your hand, then you choose 1 card from your hand, call it to rearguard circle, and then 1 of your units gets the ability that if this unit's in Harmony, this unit gets plus 5,000 power. So you have to choose a rearguard, so you can't choose this, which it would be pointless choosing this anyways because you already hit with Vanguard and Vanguard can't restand. So just choose 1 of your rearguards and then it gets 5,000 if it's in Harmony. So pretty good. Forces more guard out of your opponents, and gets you to GB2. It's just, just the okay card. Then we run 1 Lucky Rise Elprina. This is pretty much to abuse Shizuku if we have them in our hand and we want this to be our first stride instead. Like, I don't mind going to this first stride as long as I have the means to abuse it. So basically it has an activation skill that says Soul Blast 1, choose up to 2 of your rearguards, return them to your hand, and that's all it does. So you just return cards to your hand just to replay them and use the abilities over again. We run 1 Air Element Sabreeze in case our opponent tries to flex us and not ride to grade 3. Then we have 1 Best Sparkle Sandy. This is our Fighters Collection G Guard. What it says is when it's placed on the guard circle, you can choose a G Guardian and turn it face up. And then if you do, this card gets plus 5,000 for every 2 cards in your hand until the end of the battle. And then you can counterboss 1 and add 5,000 more to the shield. So since you usually have a good amount of cards in your hand in any Bermuda deck, like this is one of the best G guards in the game because you can just, just for having 6 cards in your hand, it can be 41k shield, not counting the counterblast. And if you counterblast, then it can be 46k shield, which in a lot of cases is a no pass or a 3 to pass on your opponent's Vanguard. So pretty good. Then we have 2 High Society Citron. What Citron does is it is our G guard that synchronizes very well with our Lauris grade 3s. So no matter which one we're on, it synchronizes pretty great with them. Because when this unit is placed on guard circle, we can choose a grade 1 or greater from our hand and call it to rear guard circle. And then if we call a unit, it gets plus 10,000 shield. So the most ideal combo to do with this card is to G guard, place a grade 1 Shizuku behind your Lauris Vanguard, and then your Lauris Vanguard will trigger the GB2, which will give 5,000 to 2 of your units. So you can just give 5,000 to your Vanguard and then 5,000 to a rearguard that you don't want them to destroy. And then you can also proc Shizuku in the same step, where you just look at the top 5 for a grade 3. So it's pretty good. Moving on, we have our last G-Guard, 2 Hand-in-Hand Leona. So Hand-in-Hand Leona helps us get rid of rearguards that we don't really need or want that are on our field, but also like uses it in a useful way instead of it just being destroyed or whatnot. But when this card is placed on guard circle, we can choose one of our rearguards and return it to our hand, and then if we do, we can choose the card from our hand, call it to guard circle, and then if that unit has the same name as the card returned to hand, this unit gets plus 5,000 shield until the end of the battle. So this either helps you return cards to your hand that you just want to bounce in general, or you bounce it and call it back to the field to the guard circle so that you can get plus 5,000 guard shield. So pretty good, changes the guard stage in a lot of ways. And it's just an overall solid card, but I wouldn't say that it's better in this deck than Citron, to be honest. But we're moving right into our games here momentarily. Should be Lauris 1. So it seems like the first game we are playing against Nubatama. So we're up first, we ride, then our opponent goes, rides, attacks us for 12. He checks a PG, we check nothing as well. Then we ride Maloney and attack, we get a grade 3 Lauris, which is good because previously we didn't have Stride Fodder. He rides Tamahagane, and it seems like he's running like an after image kind of destruction deck kind of thing. So he uses Kuroko, gets rid of Akari, and that kind of sucks for us, but we just end up playing Chocolatier Roan because we had the piece, which is kind of broken, honestly. But he does check a draw trigger, so we're kind of even in brokenness right now. But he does drop 2 cards of Stride, which is unfortunate for him. I do know guard is Vanguard, and he checks a heal, so we're just healing back and forth. And then he crits me as well, so I take 2 damage, and then I discard a card. And then I stride into Federica using the skill, counterboss 1, bounce 1, draw, and then I use Chocolatier Roan to counterboss 1, soul boss 1, and bounce, and draw for Chocolatier Roan. So I use Harmony for Shizuku, looking at top 5 for grade 3, and I do get it. I get the regular grade 3 Lauris. And then I just attack him for 11. He checks another draw trigger, puts power to his Vanguard, and then he PGs my Vanguard, and then I check a critical and a Himari, which will come in handy well for next turn, in my opinion. But he rides Shiranui and then strides like right off the bat into Pseudomoricon, which I don't think is the best option, but I guess my opponent did think that is the best option at this time. So yeah, I didn't think it was a great option at the time, but I guard it. Then he attacks for 36, and then I G-Guard with Hand-in-Hand Leona. I use the skill to bounce call, and then I do a 2 to pass on him. And he checks a critical, putting everything to his rearguard, and then I just G-Guard his rearguard as well. I put all the cards that he bound to the top of my deck, and then I drew all the amount of cards just so that he wouldn't see what was in my hand. So then we stride, and then we use Lauris' skill to counterboss 1, bounce, draw, and then we call Shizuku and Himari. We make Himari Harmony by playing Nina, and then we use Shizuku to look at top 5 for a grade 3, which we do get it, and we get the new Lauris. And then by discarding a grade 3, I look at top 5 for a grade 3. We don't get it, but I just decide to attack 21. So he takes it, and then I attack 16, he takes it, and then we use the Harmony skill to bounce and call. So it was actually supposed to be 21, so I missed that, but he guarded with a 10 anyway, so it doesn't matter. But we attack with Olivia, and we bounce 4 and call 2, look at top 5 for grade 3. And then he PGs this, and then we check 1, check 2, and check 3. We check a critical, putting it all at a rearguard, and then he G-guards us. And then we pass turn over to him. he draws 2 cards on accident, so then he puts 1 back and shuffles. Then he goes into Murkrow, which I thought was pretty awkward. Like, I don't know, but that he's running. I guess you would still run Murkrow in an after image deck, but like it's just pretty awkward that he's just using it at this time, I guess. But he uses Murkrow and checks a draw trigger and a heal trigger, so he's been pretty lucky all this game, like, to be honest. But we PG, and then he checks 3 cards, and then he checks a critical. Like, every time I gotta guard this last column, it's kind of ridiculous. But I get my card back. I stride into Olivia. We don't use the on-stride skill, obviously, because we can't, because we have no rear guards. But we do make sure that we are Harmony, so we attack for 20. He guards with a 10, then we guard, or we attack for 16. He guards it. And then we attack with Olivia using the skill, 31 with a crit. And then he guards with the G-Guard, and that makes us discard a card or he gets 20k. So we make him double G-Guard for it. So then we check a heal, we heal, and then we check a heal. So now I'm the broken one. But I guess I earned it, like, all this time. Him just doing stupid stuff, but I ended up putting the power all to Vanguard because it was a 2 to pass. So then he had to guard like everything to guard the rear guard. So it's a pretty good like option on my part. But he uses Fuki's skill to make me bind 1 from my hand, and then he attacks with the Toggle Lord. I bind 1. And then he attacks with a crit. And I just no guard. He checks the critical trigger. And then he almost kills us. Like, if he would have just gotten lucky. But I guess, like, he's gotten lucky enough this game. I don't know. But we check the critical trigger. We put the power to our Vanguard as well. And then we just guard his side column. And we go into our GB8 here. Using Lauris skill to bounce 1, call 1. We end up drawing Maloney, which is pretty good. And then we use Shizuku to check top 5 and Harmony. And then, yeah, we just go in for 23. He guards it. Then we go in for 23 again, and he no guards it. I don't really know why he guarded the first one, knowing that he couldn't guard the second one. But, yeah. Moving into game 2. Lauris 2 loading. Alright, this time it seems like we're playing against Blasters, or some form against Blasters, and he mulliganed like 3 times or whatever, but I let him, because it's like this guy that, like, if you play against him on area, like, I've just played against him enough time to know that, like, he whines whenever you tell him about the rules. So I just let him mulligan like multiple times, even though in Blasters he doesn't really need it. But I check a trigger. He checks a trigger as well, doing an additional damage to me. I ride Lauris and I Sabreeze him. And then I play Chocolatier Roan. Then a Shizuku, look at top 5 for grade 3. I do not get it. And then I play Kari and a crit trigger. Then I use a Kari to bounce draw. And then I call Chocolatier Roan, attack him for 11. Then I attack him for 31. And then I check no triggers. He does check a heal and then a crit. We pass our turn. He exceeds and Counterboss 1 blows up Suika, which is fine with us. Like, it's honestly just, you know, it's whatever. So then he just attacks us. We no guard Gancelot. And he doesn't check any triggers on Gancelot, so pretty good for us. He came and attacked with his rear guard. So we stride. We kind of also want to use Lauris just because we can play Nina and Soul Blast 2 and unflip. So we do attack for 16 to his Vanguard. He guards it with 2 5s. Then we attack 16 again. And then we attack with Olivia. Bounce 2, call 2, and then we Soul Blast 2 and unflip 2 more. So then he 2 to passes us. and we check a critical trigger, putting everything onto Himari, and then he G-guards again. So he's striding now into the Alfred stride. He plays an Exceed on the rearguard circle and plays a Flogel. I don't know. Oh, actually, I do know why he did that, but yeah, see, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, he played Alfred and then he played a whole field and then he just switched to Alt Mile, like, in the middle of everything and wanted to counter boss one and destroy Amari. So I was like, okay, you know, whatever. Like, I was pretty sure that he wasn't going to win this one anyways, because, I don't know. I don't think he's ever won against me, but he checks a crit trigger and a draw trigger, which is fine. And then I had to tell him that he could only check 3, and he was telling me that he only checked, like, 3, but then I was like, dude, you just checked a Lien, a crit, and a draw. But yeah, then I was telling him to press Q because there was a log, and most people don't know that there's a log on Cardfight area. But yeah, so he puts it back, shuffles, and he's like, I only did 2 checks, but okay. And I'm like, no, you didn't. But he basically does this like every time that we play, so it's, you know, it's whatever. But I guard it. He shoves into Soul, calls Blaster Blade, attacks for 12. I guard it with a 5, and then he uses Flogel. And I'm pretty sure he just countercharged to use Flogel, but it's just, you know, people don't know how to play this game. But the interesting thing about Vanguard is that most of the time when you cheat or you're just bad at it, like, it'll end up hurting you in the long run anyways than if you would have just played the natural way. But we attack his rearguard for 9. Then we use Spica's skill to bounce call another Spica. Then we use Spica's skill to bounce call another Spica. And then we attack with Olivia. Bounce and call. Then we check top 5 for grade 3. And then he no guards, and we check a critical, put crit to Vanguard. Or sorry, he didn't no guard, he just like guarded it, I guess. So he goes into the GB8 here and plays Lou, puts a Blaster Blade back, and then shoves into the Soul so that he can put 3k to this. And I knew that this was bigger, so I just guarded it as if that was the thing. And then he attacks with Obius Avalon, and he calls a Bartgol, a Blaster Blade, and a Lou and a Flogel. And then he countercharges 1. So I PG his Vanguard. He checks a draw trigger. And then nothing else. So then we guard his 23. He counterbuffs 1, gets a Blaster Blade. That attacks us for 12. I intercepted this one, and then he attacks for 18. I guard, and then he uses Flogel skill, and I literally use the exact amount of cards to guard his 29k. So I survive his GB8, and then I go into mine as a response, and then I just play my cards. Check top 5 for a grade 3. We don't get it. So then he told me I didn't pay the cost of stride, and I'm like, do you see this grade 3 in my drop zone? Like, and then he told me to press Q because he was salty about me telling him earlier to press Q. I'm like, this guy, such a pain to deal with. But I attack him for 12. And then I attack him for 16. and then I attack him for 26. He can't guard it, and then I check a critical, put it all on the Vanguard circle, and he takes 2 damage and loses. So yeah, that was the second game with Lauris. Like, oh my gosh, that game was like a huge pain because of that guy. Like, it just shows the type of people that you have to play on the area sometimes, but you know, it is what it is. There are these people that actually exist in the world in real life. But our third game, I think this game was actually really fun. Like, we were playing against Hayaki Vogue. So we ride attack for 11. He no guards, takes a damage, and then he starts with 2 of this grade 2 Obero Keeper, so that's pretty good. Like, when I saw him play that, I was like, oh snap. But we do check a critical on our rear guard dry check, but it doesn't prevent us from the brunt of all the damage, basically. But we do attack him for 14, and we do crit him back on an offensive turn, so we get him to limit break, which I'm not sure how smart of an idea that was for me against the Hayaki Vogue deck, because I feel like he almost ended me here, because he ended up using the limit break. Then he played Metamorphox to unlock one of his cards, and then he used the limit break again to lock 2, and then all of these became 31, so I was like real scared that he would check a critical. So I no guarded, he got a heal, and if he had checked a critical, like, I think I would have died, just because I put him to limit break. But he used the skill to retire this and draw a card. And then we go into Federica, counterboss 1, bounce, draw. And then we use Akari to draw another one. And I draw like right into Amelia, and I'm like, oh, why can't I draw you earlier? But yeah, I feel like I should have just played Melanie on one side and the other one on the other side, but I guess it doesn't really matter. We attack for 31. He guards with Hogan Wing, the G guard, and then he chooses his grade 1 and guards with it, and then he G guards with Shishi Yazuki, or he guards with Shira Higino. And I was telling him to be aware that he couldn't use the skill to flip because he's not GB1. So I checked 3 cards, and I checked 2 criticals out of those 3 cards. And then I attack him for 19 with 3 critical, and he guards with 2 5Ks. So we have a pretty decent hand now. I'm not too scared of what's going on now. However, this card's kind of scary. Hayaki Zora Asoji. But he said that he messed up again and kind of just like went in. So he attacks our Vanguard, UPG. He doesn't check any triggers, and then he just attacks us for 16, and that was like a way weaker turn than I was expecting. But we counterboss 1 and bounce because we are on Wonderful Voice Lauris instead of our main grade 3. So we did just bounce 2, and then we call all these cards, and Shizuku, Harmony, etc. So we use Nina to Soul Blast 2 and Countercharge 2, and then we call a crit trigger. We attack for 23, and then we attack for 16, and he just takes it because he knows that he can't guard it. But yeah, that was our game 3. And that closes out our feature fight for Lauris. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed the video, leave me a like and a comment down below letting me know what you thought or any questions you have about the video. Make sure to follow our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon. Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, yeah. And then, yeah, I think that's it. And this has been Josh from Cardfight Empire, and I'll see you guys on the next video.